Hello, lovely souls. Welcome to the Awakening to Your Soul Self podcast. I'm Christina Larero, a certified angel messenger and angel Reiki master teacher. My spiritual journey began in the spring of 2022 when my spirit team nudged me to listen to the amazing Angels and Awakening podcast by Julie Jancis. Since then, I've been learning to use my spiritual gifts and growing increasingly curious about spirituality and the various healing modalities. I'm so excited for you to join me on this special journey as we dive into spirituality and healing while exchanging our wisdom and profound insights with other remarkable healers. So grab a cup of coffee or tea, get cozy, and let's embark on the spiritual journey together. Hey there, it's Christina the Angel Messenger here. I just wanted to remind you to stay connected with me for all the latest updates and angel messages. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Christina Angel Messenger. Remember, that's Christina. If you're interested in an Angel Reiki session, you can book one virtually or in person through my website at www.christinaangelmessenger.com. Remember, that's Christina angelmessenger.com. Stay tuned for more uplifting, insightful content on this podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Hello, lovely souls. Welcome back to the Awakening to Your Soul Self podcast. I'm so excited for this episode. I have Carolina here. She is a subconscious coach. We're going to go into that and many more topics. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Christina, for having me. I'm super excited to be connecting with you and more excited to dive in as well as to what this conversation could take us from here.
Perfect. So I always like the guests to introduce themselves. So who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I consider myself a subconscious coach or someone who works with, the subconscious mind. So that really means diving in deeper into what beliefs, what stories, what childhood events or experiences actually are holding you back from creating what you really want. And as someone who grew up in a Christian home, my whole intent is to work with individuals to help them co-create their own spiritual experience. By that, I mean, diving into more our creative outlets and also making sure that we're able to start going after the things that we really want without feeling
Mm.
shame, without feeling fear around that, and letting go of a lot of our own internal sabotage and battles that we have constantly that are keeping us trapped from going after what we really want.
And that 100% is half the battle is fighting our fears and our internal, dialogue that we have with ourselves.
Yeah, it's I feel like it's one of the biggest battles. You say half the battle, I think it's the biggest. I think
Yeah.
inner work, honestly, whether you want to call it spiritual path, whether you want to call it like spiritual awakening, whatever it is, I'm a true believer that we're here on this beautiful planet because it is a beautiful planet, regardless what's going on, or regardless if you watch the news. I truly believe that we're here to learn and to evolve and to grow spiritually, right?
Yeah.
So, and majority of that work starts with the inner work, and a lot of that, at least this is my own interpretation, Christina, a
Yeah.
lot of that starts by letting go of our childhood conditioning, of all the things we have learned, and unlearn them. And that's the hard part. I have so many events in my life where I feel like I've been given the opportunity, because it is an opportunity for all of us to
Yeah.
do that work and to let go and to truly remember who we are. And a lot of that is, we're innocence. We're in our whole soul in pureness. We're just innocence, like a baby, because that's
Yeah.
when we're born. We didn't came with any of those beliefs or stories around who should I be? I can't do this, or I have so much fear, or I'm in shame right now, and so on.
Yeah. And a lot of it's, the societal, beliefs that are out there. It's the beliefs that we've grown up with. I mean, there's just such a lot of outside noise that as we explore our inner self is where we really find out what are really our beliefs and what, values that we have, and just kind of ignore the rest of the world to a certain extent where, you know, you don't obviously do anything like dangerous or anything, but like you just start listening to what you really want.
Yeah. And that's a great way of putting it as well. And, one thing that I'll briefly add in terms of what you said to our beliefs and values. So, a lot of times, this is my own experience. I just want to call this out. A lot of
Yeah.
times, we're operating from beliefs and values that we have learned from our own parents. And a lot of times, we don't
Mhm.
even know we're operating from those value systems as well.
Oh, that's a good point. 100%. So I always have my guests go into their spiritual awakening if they're comfortable. So you can go ahead if you're comfortable discussing that.
Yeah. And Christina, how do you define spiritual awakening before I answer? What does that mean to me as well? Because I'm curious.
So, everybody's spiritual awakening is different. Everybody defines it differently. For me, when I started to realize I had these gifts 2 years ago, is where I call the opening of the spiritual awakening path for me. Because I could have just said, okay, I turned it off. So, but like, I've had many healers on here so far, and some people it's very gradual, some it's like rapid. Sometimes they see it and then they close it away for a few years and bring it back. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and what I'm hearing from you is one, it's realizing that you're gifted in your own spiritual way. And for me, the way I'm going to interpret that question, because I think it's important, because a lot of people talk, I think we in this time of earth, yes, we all are going through a spiritual awakening for sure.
for sure.
And I think, I think there's a level of mastery as to what it means to be a truly awakened soul at this time. That's just my interpretation.
Yeah.
But I'll start in my, I guess, part of my healing journey and what I consider what was like my awakening in terms of like,
Yeah.
I'm spiritual instead of being into like this Catholic or Christian, format that I needed to go and participate in order for me to fit in all those things. So for me, it started like in my early 20s. I started to listen to Oprah, Super Soul Sunday, and
Mm,
a lot of great speakers were on there that talked about spirituality, and each speaker talked about, finding their own path to success and so forth. And there was Eckhart Tolle. Of course, there's no surprise. I'm sure a lot of people
yeah,
will
I
probably say,
love
yes,
him. Yeah.
yes. So he was one of them into, the Power Now and all these amazing other books that were being featured. And the biggest thing that I heard a lot, or a few of the speakers talk about, was meditation. I'm
Mhm.
like, what is meditation? And at that time, I was also grieving a lot of losses in my life and the relationships that I felt like I didn't have in terms of support. So I started meditating.
Oh, wow.
And for me, I thought meditation was a way to quiet my mind. And the more I did it, the more I found like this tingling sensation around my third eye. And eventually I started to see colors. There were all these
Ooh.
beautiful colors coming in. And at that time, I lived in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And I attended one of these like Buddha circles that they were having, or there was a monk coming in to do a future talk about spirituality. It was on a
Mm,
meetup app that I found that. And I asked him, I'm experiencing this. What does it mean? Again, I was seeking guidance
yeah.
externally. And he was like, what do you think it means? So this individual didn't really give me an answer. And I'm just gonna fast forward. At that time, I started to have more intense dreams. I started to see like this angel walking my apartment, all these different things.
Wow.
And honestly, I felt like if I were to have a story of what was like the start of my journey in terms of my own spirituality, in terms of me like starting to tune, I think that would be like the start of my journey and what I would consider for me, like that was like one of the main events that I remember for
Yeah.
sure.
Wow. That's amazing. I always like low key envy people that see color. I don't see color. For me, spirit will come in silhouettes or in orbs with like they'll tell me what color instead, or they'll write it out for me. So it's amazing that you see color.
Yeah.
Uh,
God.
Sorry, have you like started to learn what colors mean, or is that not there yet?
That's a great question. And I'm actually like my body's getting like a little bit like tingling sensation when you ask that. So to be, one of my mentors says colors energy, and that's exactly what it is, right? It is
Yeah.
energy, right? A lot of people you can find like each color has like a higher frequency and so forth. And I'm an artist myself. So
Yeah.
for me, like when I pick color, I just go like, what is the canvas trying to tell me right now? Versus like, I'm going to choose red because red is a high frequency color of blue. But
Mm.
I think I personally gravitate towards a personal palette. And I'm sure there's probably a lot of meaning there at a higher level from a soul level, right? Because I think any type of artistry is just our soul trying to express ourselves. So I'll be curious if you know any like color like meanings. I'm open to them. Outside of all I know is colors, energy, and each color has a frequency attached to it. That's the way I can describe it.
Absolutely. I work a lot with the archangels, and they'll come in as different colors. For example, Archangel Michael will come in blue, which I've only seen blue so far.
Mm.
Um, like Archangel Gabrielle, she'll come in pink every once in a blue moon. So you might want to start asking, like, what does this color mean? You could even start journaling, like after your meditation, and see if you get any downloads.
Yeah, thank you for that suggestion. I'll
Yeah,
be
of
curious.
course.
Yeah.
So I'd love for you to get into your subconscious coaching. So what is it, and like who do you help? Hey there, it's Christina the Angel Messenger here. I just wanted to remind you to stay connected with me for all the latest updates and angel messages. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Christina Angel Messenger. Remember, that's Christina. If you're interested in an angel Reiki session, you can book one virtually or in person through my website at www.christinaangelmessenger.com. Stay tuned for more uplifting, insightful content on this podcast. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah. And, I want to start with what is the subconscious mind, to be fair, right?
Perfect.
Because
Yeah.
I think that's like the neutral ground to start. And I think, for whoever is listening, I really think it's important for anyone to really understand what is the subconscious.
Yeah.
So another word for the subconscious can be the unconscious mind. And that's really where our higher mind lives. That's for me, one way I interpret the subconscious mind, it is the gateway to source, to the higher up, to the higher part of you, to where higher mind lives. So that's your gateway. That's part of it. And as kids, I used this story because this to me was the perfect way that it was described to me. It made so much sense that a third grader can understand this. As
Mm.
as kids, we weren't into this planet, right, as babies. And if you think about it, you didn't really come with having a lot of negative beliefs about, for me, one thing that I struggle in my own honesty, my own story is where do I fit in? But I was not born with the stories of, I need to be successful, and successful means I need to have X amount of money. I,
Mm.
all these different things, such as, I don't like the way I sound, I don't like the way that I look, or a lot of the negative beliefs that we get into and all the things that are stored subconsciously. And as as kids, we're not born with any of these things. So when we start growing up in our homes, meaning the environments we're set up in, a lot of that comes with different values and different belief systems that we start picking up. And the subconscious mind is programmed between the ages 0 to 7 because it is always listening. So if you want to take your phone and you have a recording camera on, that's your subconscious mind. Except on your phone, you can probably turn certain apps off, but a lot of times we forget that they're running in the background, like your battery. Your battery is always running unless you truly shut your phone off, but your subconscious mind is always on. Even right now, listening, your subconscious mind, it is listening, it is accepting or rejecting things that are true to your identity and not true to your identity. So a lot of times we have our current identity that has been based on what we heard,
Mhm.
what was shown to us, right? And my goal is to work with individuals and to help them deprogram a lot of those deep subconscious beliefs, a lot of these negative stories that we have, because that's part of doing the inner work. That's part of releasing a lot of these events, a lot of these experiences that have happened to us. The reality is, I want to be mindful of who's listening. The reality is, if we want to say, I want to be in the spiritual journey and I want to help more individuals, right? And a lot of
Mhm.
times we have fear of being seen, fear of rejection. And those are the two biggest fear if we want to be of service.
Right.
And and we're not able to be seen or shown unless we understand where is this problem coming from and what is it that I need to do to remove this problem. So I work with clients, especially at the subconscious level, to remove the I call them the subconscious blocks, or if we want to call them the blocks that are getting in the way for them to actually go out and do what it is that they want to do, or for them to start showing up more differently so that they can feel a lot better and start showing up with more confidence.
Ooh, I like that interpretation of how, from 0 to 7, it is really crucial. Those ages is where we're still connected to our higher selves, and I'll never forget when my younger cousin, she was about like 2 or 3, and she goes, "Hi, Grandpa." Grandpa was in heaven at that point, and she was physically looking at the wall, just talking to him like he was really right there.
Wow.
And then, as they get older is where they start to lose that connection. So that's when, the real, quote unquote spiritual awakening comes, because then we start to reconnect the subconscious mind that we've kind of put on the back burner and shut off for a while to come back.
Yeah, I love that example. And that's just a natural or a great example as to as to what as to who we are when we're at that age, right? There's so much
Yeah.
innocence. We're so tuned to, at a higher level, depending again on our environment, because our
Right.
environment plays a huge role. So it sounds like, in that story, she was able to connect and see, right?
Yes.
Those that were around us, we want to call them, those that have transition, or
Yeah.
I'm sure maybe angels, and it's beautiful because one of the things that I've learned too, like our imagination is also part of subconscious too, right?
Absolutely. Like
Yeah.
I've said this in a couple episodes where my spirit guides have told me, my imaginary friends that I had as a child were them,
Wow.
and we weren't making them up. I mean, we kind of were, but we really weren't deep down. We were actually seeing, spirit angels, loved ones, whatever, however connects
Yeah.
with you, that we're just so, like we said, we just were so innocent during those times where we can just easily snap right into higher frequency.
Absolutely. And one of the things that, and again, I'm just following my intuition here, Christina. One of the
Absolutely.
biggest things that happens to us too is that there's a lot of fear and doubt that gets programmed into us. Today I was guided to watch the story of Hansel and Gretel, and maybe you're familiar with that, maybe you're not. But even stories around like wishes, warlock, and all these different things like heaven and hell, all these different things, right? So at one point, we're having these vision, these extraordinary things happen to us because maybe we're in path, or already in that path to be more spiritually awakened than those around us, or just part of the majority. And as we get older, that part of us is not cultivated, it's not nourished. So we start easily losing that connection, and we start getting programmed as to around what is spirituality and what does that look like. A lot of times, depending, in my home, I would definitely grew up in the home of church, right? Of Christ as Savior. I hope I'm not offending anyone. But this is the story that I grew up in, and where I stand today, and who who I am today. I'm just being authentic and my own beliefs today. But a lot of times when we are experiencing these things, a lot of doubt and a lot of fear can come through, especially when we're sharing that either as kids or as we get a little bit older, to those around us that are not able to really understand or have been conditioned to have a certain belief.
Absolutely. I think, when I was starting to do this work is, I quote unquote called it the spiritual closet. I did like fully come out. I'm still like one foot in there. I'm not completely out to everybody yet, but that's another sense of you kind of start to feel who you trust and who's understanding, who's not. And then either they understand or I should say accept it, and they are maybe not interested. So those friends, I don't talk about that things. But if I have friends that are interested, then we'll talk about those things. So I think that's important as well.
Absolutely. I think part of it's like having that safe space. And for me, I'm also learning not to one, be so judgmental about other people's belief, right?
Yeah.
Because I think it's easy, and a lot of times it's also not too shy away from what you believe. I'll give you a brief example, Christina. So when I was in college, and my brief transition after college, I had a friend, and one of the ways we would bond was by me going through her community church, right?
Mm.
And now that I look back, I look that as an opportunity for me to connect with her. And also looking back, I also realized that I didn't really understand who I was then, or what was spirituality, right? And it's also coming from that place of a lot of people have been taught what is a particular belief system, and a lot of people will stay in that way, but definitely not having fear or shying away from who you are, especially when you're asked to. I think it's important, but of course, making sure that you're sharing these things with people that you feel safe and comfortable is also important as well.
Yeah. I mean, safe space is 100%. That can and just sometimes the energy of the room as well. Um, like sometimes you walk into a room and you're like, oh, something's happening in here.
Yeah.
Um, not everybody feels that, but I think on a, subconscious level, I think we all can really almost like not pinpoint like where the energy is coming from, but like when you walk into a room, you can kind of feel a little bit of the vibe.
Yeah. And, I'll say this, regardless if you can sense energy or not,
Yes.
subconsciously, you're always reading people. Your subconscious mind always knows. So even though if you're an empath, hopefully I can use that word, you might walk in like, oh, there's some tension here, or this doesn't feel good. I need to go home. Whatever it is, you're already picking up on something, or maybe you're not able to pick up on it, or you're like, oh, something fell off maybe later. That was your
Hmm.
subconscious mind already reading, right? Our subconscious minds read people right away. Even by you looking at someone, your subconscious mind is already making something about a person without you actually realizing it or not.
100%. And what Spirit's bringing through for me is um, past lives. Like, have you ever seen a person and just feel so familiar with them and you've never seen them before? Spirit always likes to remind me that it could have been from a past life.
Yeah. I'll use the term like a soul sister or soul brother.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's the best way I can describe it. It's just when you meet that person and you're just like click, you're like, oh my God, I love this person. And you just meet
Yeah.
them for like a brief, like 5-10 minutes, or you have a really good conversation and you don't have any reason why. And again, it could be, the energy behind, whatever you're contributing to whatever topic is happening. But
Yeah.
I have had those connections, and been getting fortunate to have them today where I can feel like this is like my soul brother or my soul sister. And those are like the most beautiful connections you can have. And to your point, Christina, those are the people where I'm like, I had this experience. And they're like, yes, I understand.
I mean, so Carolina, you must have these experiences with your clients too. Like your clients need to resonate with you in order for you to do this work, right? So on
Yeah.
some kind of subconscious level, both of you subconsciously need to work together as well. So do you do like a clarity call or like some kind of introduction before you do your work with them?
Oh, absolutely. I call it a clarity call, as a way for us to get to know each other and really to find out what is actually getting in the way or keeping you like in your stuck pattern, and to see if we're really a good fit, right? Because again, we read each other energetically. And
Yeah.
I think that's part of the process is finding out if I can be the best support system that you're looking for. And it's also for you to understand if you actually feel safe around me and if you feel confident and able and willing to do the work as well.
That's amazing. So what are your coaching sessions like?
Yeah, that's a great question because it's definitely customizable, but I created like these three pillars. And one,
Okay.
it's really again all around like the subconscious coaching and really using hypnosis. And a lot of that
Ooh,
comes with visualization exercises and removing some of those blocks that I talked about earlier and using new language that resonates with my client for them to start going and creating what is it that I really want. And again, with coaching, it's really different than therapy because my whole intent, and as someone who has gone to talk therapy, it's really about creating a path forward. It's really about creating an action plan where we actually can create results, and for my clients who actually have the support that they need and understanding, what is it that got in the way between what you said and what you didn't do. What is still the
mm,
roadblock that's coming up for you? What new stories are you telling yourself? And let's really relook at what value system are you working with? Because a lot of times, we say our value is family. We say our value can be, having fun. We can come up with 5 values, but a lot of times in my own experience and someone I experienced this myself, I was not living my values. I was not. I
yeah.
actually didn't know what my own values were really. And this is like a deep dive. This is about getting to know yourself at a deeper level. And really, one of my coaches said this. It's about start cleaning up some of the clutter that's actually around you, so you can start having more clarity around what is it that you want to do and how is it that you want to move forward in terms as to what you want to achieve. And one of the other things that I incorporate too is definitely using my own wisdom, for my own spiritual experiences, but also making sure that we're able to co-create an actual creative activity. Because Christina, and I'm sure
Mhm.
this was you, you probably play with crayons or maybe color pencils.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And maybe you also, I don't know, I'm not saying this is you, but at some point, maybe you also like to dance, maybe you sing out loud, all these different
Yep.
things. You like to dress up, maybe as a, I don't know, a fairy godmother. I'm
Yeah,
not saying that.
100%.
All these things, right? And that's
Yeah.
pure innocence. That's who we are at a beautiful soul level, right? Where we're careless, right? And again, this all depends in the environment that we grew up and if that was nourished in us. But I truly believe as part of us, we all have our own artistry. Artistry doesn't mean you have to be a painter or color. Artistry can be you're a poet, you're a writer. You have your own wisdom that you want to share, or have not had the idea that you could share that wisdom and help others and be of service to others. So my intent is to find some activities, co-created activities that can help and guide my clients to be more in the present moment and to connect with a different part of themselves that they have not had the opportunity to.
That's beautiful that you're really incorporating creativity, because creativity is really pure, just for me, it's pure intention of just disconnecting all the noise. And whether that's, like you said, coloring or writing or singing, dancing, whatever it is, that is just pure high vibrational energy. And now that you like talked about it, it's really making me think about back then when I used to be in the coloring books and
Yeah.
love to color and love to paint. But I really need to start bringing that back into my life. But not only that, is that now there's so many activities like coloring books. Like there's a reason why they're around now.
Absolutely. Oh my God. I was working with a coach like years ago, and she said, go somewhere and buy a coloring book and color pencils. And I just went to a dollar store, honestly.
Yeah,
So if anybody's listening to, like, you don't have to get crazy, all creative. You can literally go to your nearest dollar store, buy color pencils and a coloring book. That's the easiest way to start. Or you can go on Amazon, of course,
right,
whatever
right.
that speaks to your heart. And to your point, there are so many different activities. And one of the things too, as I've been in my own creative journey, is a lot of it too, again, it just depends who you are and where you are. It's a matter of you trying different things out and understanding what works and doesn't work for you. Like for me, I attempted to take some pottery classes, and I realized that making pottery on the wheel was not for me. So I was like, okay, great. Yes, it's part of my own exploration. It's part of my own spiritual maturity of understanding what doesn't work for me and understand like I don't want to stick to this anymore, even though that came from higher guidance and that was a lesson with its own. But there's just
Mhm.
things, just try it out. And if it speaks to you, amazing, continue to do that. And if you feel like some ickiness around that, then don't do that. But again, just listen to your own intuition.
100%. I mean, I can't explain to you. As you were talking, I was going to ask the same thing of, do you try all these different things and figure out what works and what doesn't? And that's what I've been telling my listeners, is that I have all these different healers that do different things or similar things, because I want to create a platform where people can discover what resonates and what doesn't without, you know, purchasing all these different programs and trying all these things. They can just kind of get a sneak peek of these healers and say, oh, that resonates. Or I resonate with her, but what she said doesn't or like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like vice versa. So I love that idea of just trying coloring, trying pottery, trying X, Y, and Z. And that I think Spirit's bringing this through, and this goes through meditation as well. For me, when I first started not doing meditation, I just couldn't do it. And it just takes time and it takes practice, but you also have to find what works for you. For me, I can't do quiet meditation. It's too quiet. My brain gets a little crazy. But if I just play, like, type in YouTube, high vibrational music, and I have just a little bit of music playing, then that works. Or sometimes I feel like I need a guided meditation. So I just want to throw that little tidbit in there.
I love that. Yes. And thank you I feel like you were following your intuition when you were saying that as well. And, meditation, it's like, it can be really confusing
Yeah.
because we think meditation, it's all about quieting our mental or internal self-talk down. And the reality is, especially if you're a beginner or regardless of what stage you are in your life, you can have some days where all you hear is your own mental chatter and
Yeah.
thinking about what you need to be doing next. And, truly don't think there is a right or wrong way to do things. especially when it comes to meditation, like you said, Christina, whether it's following a guided meditation on YouTube, whether it's listening to binaural beats, whether it's listening to a relaxing sound. I think the most important thing is finding the right practices that allows you to connect with your own self without being judgmental about it. I'm gonna use that word because for me, I'm like,
Yeah.
it's been 10 minutes and all I hear is my own thoughts. This is not working. And then I, walk away from my own meditative pillow.
Yeah. And what Spirit's showing me is my mentor a while ago. She was like, you have, I don't remember, like thousands and thousands of thoughts. But she really described it as you're walking down the road and you see a kid in shorts and it's snowing outside. You hu- and you're like, why are they wearing shorts outside? It's snow. You grab that thought and then you go to another thought and you go to another thought and you go to another thought. And, if that happens during meditation, the way for me, Spirit kind of showed me is when I have a thought in meditation, I'm near a river and I just put my thought in the basket and it floats down the river.
Mm,
So that I just want to throw that little tidbit in there. Sometimes that might be helpful to just
yeah.
if you feel like all you're doing is thinking of your thoughts, which is there's nothing wrong with it. Um, but you just might feel like, all right, I just need to not hear my thoughts for a minute. Just throw your thought. Could be river, could be however you visualize it. And just for a moment, just let it float away.
Yeah. I love that. I love the visualization of that river, honestly. I saw myself doing that. So thank you. It's like, oh, this is very meditating. And yeah, and the other thing I'll contribute to what you said is it's monkey mind, especially our monkey
Mhm.
mind's time with a business, especially for those that are, have their own professional careers and at the same time we're doing the inner work or juggling our families and all that. There's a lot going on in today's society, and a lot that we're all trying to manage. So it is completely natural. And, and just even having the intent of just focusing on your breathing, very simple practices as that, or just picking something that you want to concentrate, or just simply observing what is coming up for you without internal judgment. It's also a great practice to what you said, Christina.
Fabulous. So I kind of want to steer paths just a little bit.
Uh,
We talked about meditation, we've talked about dealing with our subconscious mind. So now that we are working on our subconscious mind, how do we start to tap into our higher wisdom now that we've kind of started to lay out the foundation of how are we connecting our subconscious mind and how are we going to start to tap into the higher wisdom that we have internally?
Yeah, I was like, well, for me, I'm going with my gut response, aka
Do it.
intuition here. I'm like, it's just simply following your intuitive, the things that you're noticing that are showing up for you, and just one understanding where is this idea. A lot of times we get these intuitive hits that come up really at random times, and a lot of times we have not learned to actually tune with what is actually showing up for us. A lot of times we can dismiss that. And so our own higher intuition, it's cultivated one by understanding where you get intuitive hit, or you have this gut feeling like, I feel like this should not be the type of job I should be accepting when an offer comes through, or you feel like this
Mm,
interview felt okay, good, but there's something off here for me. And when you're feeling like there's something off, there's this intuitive ickiness, or this not longer resonates, there's a reason why you're sensing that. And a part of that is also checking in with yourself. And a lot of times, we can say we can journal, absolutely. We can sit with that and understand what that really means. uh, for me, I personally like to think about it is when you are getting these sensation around you, when you're getting these thoughts of maybe I should follow this path because you know it's coming from your heart. It's not coming from your brain, meaning this is the logic thing that I should be doing because it means that I am going to be in a safer space versus when I really want to do something that I really want. That's not what I mean here. I mean, it's listening to the higher
Yeah.
part of you that like, oh my God, for a long time, I've been really craving to actually go out and try a new creativity, or it's been a long time since I danced and that used to be part of my routine when I was little. Or I used to love dancing. I no longer do that. And if you're listening today or you feel like, oh my God, I would love to try something new, right? That's potentially could be part of your higher wisdom coming through, or there's a part of you that's resonating at a soul level that is kind of nudging you. So when you're are getting these intuitive hits, when you're getting these thoughts of, I always wanted to do that, that's a great opportunity from your higher wisdom that could be coming through for you.
100%. And, as you go through your healing journey, you start to learn to take those intuitive hits. For me, I get, quite a few intuitive hits, and I don't always write them down, and then I end up forgetting them. So, Spirit's wanting me to tell people if you get an intuitive hit, it's okay to take 2 seconds to write it down in your phone or write it
Yeah.
down in a notepad. Um, because, life gets busy. For me, I work at a school district, so I'm always on the go. So I'll be like, "Oh yeah, I'll totally remember that." And then when I'm doing my nightly meditation, I'm like, "Oh, there was a really good intuitive hit, but I missed it."
Yeah. Can I also add to that? I got really
Yes.
excited. This is also something that I've learned too. And a lot of times, I've been there, and sometimes I find myself in these conversations or I see a sign, or sometimes you can see like a book on, it can find like a book on Amazon or just even a simple Google search. It just sometimes that intuitive hit can come through that way or remind you that you had one. So a lot of times,
Yeah.
yes, we can forget, but it can also come back to us, especially when we're meant to explore that idea. And sometimes this can be like the little nudges, you call it your angels, right?
Yeah.
Or you can call it your higher ups there watching out for you or the universe guiding you. But also, I truly believe that if you're meant to be doing something, it will come back to you, especially if you dismiss that intuitive hit once. Now, if you continue to dismiss that and you're not making the time for it, that's something completely different.
100%. And um does come back, when you accidentally dismiss them, they'll find their way back to you and you'll be like,
Totally.
that is it. Or like you said, in a conversation, you'll get an intuitive hit from a conversation and you're like, "Huh, that's what it was."
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. So why is tapping into our higher self important?
Well, in my own interpretation, again, from a very early age, I think most of us have been conditioned to follow society's norm, to follow what what is like the best path to success. And what I'm talking about here is the best path to success. We usually like, from early age, depending again on your environment, there's no right or wrong. It could be, getting your good grades, being active, right? Making sure you graduate high school. If you're lucky, maybe you go to college or community college. If you don't, you get a job, right? And regardless, in either way, your path to success relies on a job and a salary. And a lot of times when we find that path, the path could also means, it also means to have a particular home and to have a partner and to have kids, right? That's a cookie cutter
Mm.
Western society. And it also means to accumulate more material things, when the reality is that most of us are living very well off compared to, like other countries for sure,
Yes.
without going into details.
Right.
So why it's important because I'm going to say this, we get the opportunity to find out who we really are and what is it that we want to do without feeling like we're forced to follow what has been told to us at a very young age. And I think for me, that has been my story. I was told what my path to success looked like. I followed that. And the more I did that, the more I felt like I was an imposter, the more anxious I felt because I was still high achieving was the path to approval and accumulating all these things. And when a reality is that I wanted to be of service in a different way, and being of service meant to be seen. And I had a lot of fear of that. So it could be many things to many different people. I will just say that it is an opportunity to find out who you really are and what is it that you really want to do without feeling like you need to rely on somebody else's constant secondary approval, especially when that person does not know what is best for your soul interests.
That was beautifully said. Beautiful, beautiful. So you were mentioning conditioning. For those of listeners that don't know what conditioning is, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it could be conditioning. Another word maybe for those that are more, I guess, into personal development. You probably heard the word programming at a very young age. You have been programmed at a very young age. You have been conditioned, and just think about it as well that at a very young age you learn to act and to be a particular way, and as you got older you are carrying these behaviors and these ways of being in your day to day without you being fully conscious of it. And when I talk about conditioning, it's the programming that you learn between the ages 0 to 7, aka your subconscious mind program. So that's one way that I think about conditioning, is everything that you learn at a very young age that you're not even aware of it.
Perfect. So can we talk about some examples of how do we start to release the conditioning? Like for people who, can't go see a subconscious coach, how can we start to do this work of releasing conditioning
Yeah.
ourselves?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple things. So the subconscious mind learns through repetition, and it likes vivid imagery as well. So one, I would say hypnosis, it's one of a beautiful way to do that.
Okay.
And a lot, that's an easy. And for those that want to learn more, you can go on YouTube, and there's even hypnosis there. Just use your 2 cents, what feels good about what is hypnosis and it's not, because there's a lot of misconception and misinterpretation what is hypnosis as well. And a lot of it too can come down to simply, a lot of people use affirmation as one way, that constant repetition. And, in terms of reprogramming a new belief, that's a simple way, methodical approach that you can do. That takes a little bit longer, of course, than clearing compared to hypnosis, just my personal opinion. And, a lot of people use the emotional freedom technique. So that's just a lot of tapping through certain acupuncture points as well. And it's something you can also definitely learn online on YouTube. You don't have to pay someone as well. So a lot
Mhm.
of the things I'm saying here, anybody can go and actually learn these things too, through a simple search.
Thank you so much for that. I feel like, sometimes there's just so much knowledge out there just to give listeners just a couple examples to
Yeah.
see what works and what doesn't. And then if you find that that doesn't work for you, then, I'll put Carolina's information in the show notes. And if she resonates with you, totally, book some sessions with her. I just love her energy so far. So I think, she's going to be a good match for some of you. So the last topic that I'd love to talk about is co-creating our own spiritual experience. So, how do we start to co-create what our experience is like? Because we do really have a say of how we start to experience things. But not only that, we do some co-creating with God, universe, source, and our higher selves. So, what
Yeah.
are your kind of senses on that topic?
So your question is, how do we co-create our own spiritual journey, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm going to use the word, use your own spider senses or spider. And I'll dive into what that means. There's a lot of information out there. A lot. Like you can look up Angel Michaels, and I'm sure you get tons of hits,
Yeah.
especially on YouTube. So I'm going to say use your antenna as to what
Mm,
resonates with you, right? Just like you said, Christina, even people listening to this conversation and you having all these other healers on your podcast, people go like, oh yeah, I definitely resonate with him or her, right?
yeah.
Automatically your subconscious mind is reading, the frequency. That's because whether you watch someone or not, you're just listening to the audio, you're resonating with a frequency, or maybe you're not. So that's automatically what's going on. And same thing when you're watching a video online, you're either resonating with a person or not because you're picking up on something. And again, use your own intuitive antenna as to
Mm,
what is actually feels good for you and the things that you're willing to try, because at the same time, honestly, there's a lot of misinformation out there. Whether it's people repeating other people's information, which happens a lot, it's part of the path, right?
yeah.
And a lot of people don't know what is actually they may be referring to, right? When we're talking about hell or heaven, right? All these things. So just really be mindful, and do your own research again, and just really follow what feels good. That's Christina. That's really what I can say. Like the first thing. Oh no, just follow your own senses here.
100%. Yes, absolutely. You follow your intuition. And if you haven't learned, what your intuition feels, start with something small. Um, I had somebody tell me, start by eating a piece of food. Eat, a healthy food versus a non so healthy food and see how that feels within your body. That can kind of start to learn your intuition. Or one of the first healers that I had is bringing your thought that you're having, and bring it down to your gut area and see how that feels. If
Yeah.
that feels good or if that doesn't feel good. So I think you have to start to really learn how do you interpret your intuition, and then you
Yeah.
can really start to co-create your spiritual journey. But also you can start, even as we were talking, is learning how to use our subconscious mind, and how do we tap into that higher wisdom. So
Yeah, I love that. And one thing that I'll say around, your intuition and developing that, because I think that's really crucial too in our own, if we want to say the word spiritually awakening, it's
mhm.
also look at what decisions you have made, whether it was recently or, a part of your life that didn't feel good and that you still went through and that you still didn't do anything about it. Right. Because
Oh
for
yeah.
me, I made a lot of decisions, or I made decision not to speak up because I was shy, or the fact that someone could judge me, even though when I felt like I should have said something. So again, those were missed opportunities on my end and an opportunity for me to practice. So whether you want to use what should I have for dinner, whether it's chicken or pork, or if you're vegetarian or vegan, I don't know. That
Yeah.
could be a simple practice on its own. And also just briefly reviewing at things that at reviewing decisions that you made where you felt like you probably should have not gone that way, or you probably should have said something.
Oh, I've never really thought about looking at past decisions like that
Mhm.
before. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we have to wrap up this episode. So I always like the guests to tell people where they can find you. So if you have social media, your website, and what your offerings are.
Yeah. Well, you can find me on IG, on Instagram at Carolina Baez, Berlin, or you can also find me on my own website, which is just carolinabaez.com. So those are two places where you can find me as well.
Perfect. And do you just offer the subconscious coaching, or do you have any other services as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. Right now, I offer one-on-one coaching.
Okay.
Um, so if anybody's interested in learning more, or just want to have a conversation, if you heard anything that I said that resonated in my talk with Christina, feel free to reach out in any way with any takeaways. Or if you want to connect more, you can definitely book a free clarity call. It is free. Again, just an opportunity for us to connect and get to know each other in that way as well.
Thank you, Carolina, so much for this conversation. I felt like it was so high vibrational. There were
Yeah.
so many downloads I think we were both
Yes.
getting,
Yes.
that I hope there's a lot of messages for our listeners to just think about, and hope that they resonated with what we were
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. Like I said, this was definitely a ground um, opportunity for me, and I love the energy. So thank you for co-creating the space with me, Christina.
Thank you again so much, Carolina. As always, friends, we will see you next Monday. Have a great rest of your day.